Okay, so let's start with our table. So here we have similar problems, okay? I'm just going to apply this automatic unwrap. And we can see straight away, if I undo my edge faces here, we've got some pretty unclean cutting of the mesh here, which is bound to give us some problems later on. This kind of isolation of the textures for our light calculation, and the way this is going to be a very isolated element in this texture here. So if we select that bit, that's going to be prone to giving us light leaks, and how it's going to be very difficult for the software to join that cleanly. Okay, so this is what we're going to have to clean up if it doesn't work well. So to do that, same as before, I just select everything, make sure my back faces are off, select everything, apply a blanket projection in the Z direction. So just here in this particular mesh, when I modeled it, I detached these ends here. And so you see actually that this one's been missed out in the selection. And also I cleaned up the base that you can't see here because of the feet, but the base of that cylinder, I deleted the face because we won't need it, and it's just a little bit of extra work that it would require in the unwrapping. So this is the kind of quick little optimization you can do when you're modeling anything that you don't see. Just delete, so it's not going to cause you any further work down the line. Anyway, so carry on. So now we've got rid of all our green lines, and I'm just going to confirm here that our view confirms that we've got everything. The texture is just looking at it down, so everything's compressed into a flat top view. Let's start with the tabletop. Okay, so what we actually, I'm just going to move all of this out of the way, and then with the tabletop, I'm just going to select edges here, and I'm going to put my edges back on here on the other hand. And I want to, first of all, differentiate with the top and the bottom. So I'm just going to click this outer edge here and then click loop and say, right, that's definitely going to be a thing on its own that I'm going to make small because we're not going to see it. And then I'm just going to select a few edges randomly. I'm kind of thinking I'm going to turn on ignore back facing. I'm kind of thinking about thirds, I guess, here, and then create the loop for these. And what I want is to unselect the main lines here, top and bottom, and I'm just going to cut the geometry along these blue lines here, and you'll see why in just a second. So I'm going to select my entire element again, and back in my interface here, I'm going to do a peel operation. And so if I drag these out a little bit, what you'll see is that it's done exactly as I wanted. It's cut these edges here, and it's really even the actual texture map on channel 1 here, because I will have a continuous section here. So I'll show you that in a minute. And then my bottom is perfectly isolated like I wanted it. Okay, so now I can actually even collapse this, collapse all, and this information you will see has been retained in the mesh. So if I go to unwrap UVs again and I open the UV editor on channel 2, and then my channel 2 work has been preserved in the mesh. So that's fantastic. All right, so just one, going to create a seam here on the underneath of this tube, so that we'll always be looking at it this way, so we won't see any potential errors happening here. So again, do that, and then I select this whole element and create a quick peel here. So you see that we've got this slight problem that it's turned it. So I just do that and then move it over there. And so I'm just going to quickly do that for the others. So I've just aligned them all and bring them back in here. And these ones I'm going to spare you. I'll just give them a quick Z projection, and then I won't bother too much. And so I'll move these. So these, and these. I will move out of the way this way, and then we've got our 3 little ends. For these ones, I'm just going to create a very simple plane of view like this, which just gives me a head-on kind of view of it. Quick plane of view as well. And then so I just select all of that and use this pack normalize. And so what this does is that it just packs it all for me in this neat little square. If I delete the background, it's clearer. And I'm so this is pretty good because I'm a bit anal with this, and you'll see you get sort of caught with it. You just kind of want to do it a little bit more your way, so you can kind of get these guys to be packed together this way, and then maybe give them a bit more. And so careful not to drag the pivot, and then maybe give them a little bit more room. So this is where you don't want to get caught too much, you know, if you haven't got masses of time. All this is probably going to have very little effect. So what I wanted to do though is reduce the size of the underneath, because we won't see it much, and increase the size as much as I can. Maybe I turn these guys around using this 90-degree rotation here. That's quite useful. Give me more room. And then I just want to maximize the size of this. You know, if there's any shadows that will fall onto the table, the more definition I have on this tabletop, the more precise and softness I can bring into my lighting later on. So that's why the light maps are very important. So this is it. This is really nice and clean. Totally up to you to do it as you like it. You could have done it completely different way. But what matters is that you are in control of where these green lines go, where the cut will happen, to manage this as you want it. So yeah, quickly before we go, just a word on this. When we use this unwrap channel 1, so I've just put a UV projection, just a simple box UV projection onto this stool like we would sort of normally do. And you can see that, if you see on the box, we've got the grain of the wood that goes into one direction, and then here it goes on the other direction, which makes it look always not quite right, or maybe gives us this slight veneer look. Whereas if we apply this on channel 1, the same unwrap, then we can see that the wood properly wraps around the edges of the table, giving it much more the look of a solid piece of wood. And that's added benefit of learning about unwrapping.